About a year ago, my ex and I broke up. We had been living together for a couple of years, and when I left, I thought I had grabbed everything that was mine. At the time, I wasn't really worried about loose ends. I moved out, left behind a lot of bad memories, and just focused on starting fresh. Fast forward to February of this year. I'm sitting down to do my taxes, pulling together my paperwork, when I realize something is missing. My folder of tax returns from previous years is nowhere to be found. I searched through boxers, drawers, old bags from the Move Nothing. I figured it must have gotten lost when I packed up, and though it was frustrating, I didn't think much else about it. That was my first mistake. Months later, on a random Friday, I get a knock on my door. I'm being served papers. A lawsuit. Over $5,000 in defaulted credit card debt. I stood there reading the papers, and my stomach dropped. I didn't even own that card. I immediately pulled my credit reports from all 3 bureaus. And sure enough, there it was. Not just one card, but 2. One defaulted since May, and another closed in June with a balance of about $2,500. Both accounts I had never even heard of. I started making calls right away. One of the companies confirmed that the account had been opened back in January. That was months after I had moved out of my old place with my ex. And where had the cards been sent? To that old address. The one I used to share with her. When I got the statements, my suspicions turned into near certainty. Probably 80% of the charges were Nordstrom and Macy's. Both stores my ex used to shop at religiously. The timeline, the address, the shopping patterns, everything pointed straight to her. I decided to confront her. I picked up the phone, called her, and laid it out. Told her these accounts had been opened in my name. Told her the charges matched her habits. And I told her the truth, that if she had used my social security number from those old tax returns, it was going to come out eventually. She lost it. She started screaming at me, swearing up and down. She had nothing to do with it. She told me I was crazy for accusing her. Then she told me never to talk to her again and hung up. I was still reeling from the call when about 20 minutes later, my phone rang again. This time, it was from a blocked number. I answered and it was her boyfriend. His voice was low, threatening. He told me if I didn't stop harassing her, he'd make my life a living hell. And then he hung up. I froze. My heart was pounding. Out of curiosity and maybe a bit of fear, I looked him up. His criminal record was public, and it wasn't minor stuff. Aggravated arson, aggravated discharge of a firearm, multiple battery charges. Suddenly, this wasn't just about money or credit. It felt dangerous. I spent that night tossing and turning, caught between 2 awful options. Do nothing and let my credit, my finances, and my future spiral. Or push forward and risk retaliation from someone with a violent history. The next morning, I knew I couldn't let fear run my life. So I called the police. The process was surprisingly quick. About half an hour of explaining, giving them what paperwork I had, and I walked out with a report number in hand. That number felt like my shield. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe. I sent the report to the credit card companies. I filed disputes with all 3 bureaus. I gave the report number to the lawyers handling the lawsuit. And then I waited. Something strange happened after that. The calls from my ex and her boyfriend stopped. Completely. No more blocked numbers. No more screaming denials. Just silence. And then, a month later, I got a text from a mutual friend. My ex had been arrested. Apparently, the county had issued a warrant for her the week before, and that morning, she'd been pulled over on her way to work. Booked, charged, and then released fairly quickly, but still, it was official. She was facing consequences now. As for her boyfriend, I found out through the grapevine that they had broken up. He wasn't part of her life anymore, and honestly, that news alone was enough to make me feel 10 pounds lighter. Now, here's the best part. Those fraudulent accounts, they've already been wiped from my credit. Gone. My score has shot up by almost 200 points in just a few weeks. I've still got a court date later this month, but everything is pointing in the right direction. I'll show up. make sure the paperwork is in order, and that'll be the end of it. Looking back, I realize how close I came to just letting it slide. If I had ignored it, if I had hoped it would all go away, I'd still be drowning in debt I never touched. Collection calls, ruined credit, lawsuits that could have wrecked my life for years. But instead, I stood up, and I learned something important. It doesn't matter how close someone once was to you. If they cross the line into stealing your identity, they're not just hurting your credit, they're stealing your future. And you can't let fear or guilt or loyalty keep you quiet. Today, I feel stronger, I feel relieved, and I feel ready to move forward without the weight of my past holding me back.